about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
And we're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877 DOCDALI. All right, I'm starting to get sick and tired of the anti-patriotism. It is America's 250th birthday. Are you kidding me? And you keep hearing this growing call to boycott the festivities of our birthday. This is ridiculous. And it's shameful. It's embarrassing. So the latest, 7 states are pulling out of the Great American State Fair. Apparently we're having this state fair, and Connecticut, Illinois, Maine, Massachusetts, North Carolina, Oregon, and Washington are not going to send official delegations. They're pulling out of this Great American State Fair. Now, Massachusetts and North Carolina said, budget constraints. But others are concerned that it would be in support of America in its current state today under the presidency of Trump. Really? We're America. This is our 250th birthday. And they say all of the withdrawing states are led by Democratic governors. They say at least 3 more states remain undecided. And the fair is supposed to start in a couple weeks. So Freedom 250, we have America 250, we have Freedom 250, but Freedom 250 organizers say all 50 states and 6 territories will be represented. There's going to, and even if they don't want, even if the governors decide to pull out, they say there's going to be tourism boards, museums, other private organizations. I guess Illinois will be represented by the Peoria Riverfront Museum and all that. But you know, there's going to be Ferris wheels and fairs and performers. And, you know, my issue with this is if they don't want to be there, if somebody does not want to celebrate America's 250, then don't celebrate it. There's going to be video footage later. There's going to be pictures. There's going to be, I'm embarrassed for our country, but I think it's going to be very, very embarrassing that a country such as, or a state such as Massachusetts or Oregon or Washington, beautiful states, played pivotal roles, right, throughout our history, that they don't want to be involved. They don't want to be involved in fun. And then when we look back at the history books and we look back at articles and you know, our Wikipedia, etc., we don't see them a part of it. You know, and it's I think just the natural evolution of things, where this country is becoming more divided and people are becoming less American. And you know, I think I'm tired of trying to unite. I want to unite people. I think the average moderate Democrat, moderate Republican wants to see people united. But when their governor, their elected leaders are saying, no, we're pulling out because we don't want to look like we're supporting our current president who won democratically, you know, I mean, how much can we do? Let them make fools of themselves. It's embarrassing. Now, some people would say, well, Dr. Dahlia, Freedom 250, who cares? That's not, you know, the only way to celebrate. I'm wondering if they're going to celebrate at all. I keep hearing WNBA players don't want to wear a patch. You're hearing that people don't want to do local. There's been local events that are getting scrapped. This isn't just about Freedom 250. It's about just celebrating in general. And we have July 4th coming up. Really? You're not going to have fireworks? You're not going to have a celebration? If you don't want to be in America, if you don't want to ascribe to being American, if you don't want to honor those who gave their life and sacrifice, because that's how I look at America 250. It isn't that we're celebrating every single year. You know, 1822. We're not celebrating every year. And honoring what we did, because we made a lot of mistakes in our past. But what we're celebrating is that we are here today and that we are alive that our country is strong, that we have a democracy, and that we have freedom. And I am celebrating the fact that I am not in another country being attacked, discriminated against, told to cover my hair, where I get to be free. I get to vote. I get to work. I get to be on air. And I'm here because of the men and women that sacrificed and the families who sacrificed. That's what I'm celebrating. And when you see other governors and other states going, no, because our president didn't win, Kamala Harris didn't win. So if Kamala Harris didn't win and Biden couldn't run again, we're not going to celebrate it. You know how stupid that looks? If you're truly an American and you're truly patriotic, then you support, the freedom to vote. You support democracy. You support our representative democracy. You support our republic. Instead, you sound like you're supporting fascism. If Kamala Harris won, I'm telling you right now, Republicans would still be celebrating 4th of July. And Republicans can't be the only party that's patriotic. I know moderate Democrats too. They want to celebrate. But here we are with this, growing push that in the next few weeks, we need to buck any celebration and make it look like it's a week. Trust me, we have millions of Americans and millions of Americans want to celebrate. And for those who don't, let them embarrass themselves. I am done trying to convince people that they are living under a blanket of freedom provided by people who gave their blood, sweat, and tears in their lives. I'm done. So let them embarrass themselves and then let them explain and let these states try to explain why they didn't do what we did in 1976. In 1976, flags everywhere. I was really, really young. But all I remember is red, white, and blue everywhere. Everyone was celebrating because we were happy to be American and we knew that things would suck if we were in any other country. So, happy America 250th for those of us celebrating. 1-877-Doc-Dolly.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799 and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
we're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877 Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So medical school admissions still in the news as the DOJ says that UC Davis used racial proxies, quote unquote, in admissions, meaning once the Supreme Court said you couldn't do affirmative action in 2023, what UC Davis allegedly did was use other factors to try to identify non-white applicants. According to, this is according to MSM, they say that the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division alleges that UC Davis School of Medicine intentionally skirted the Supreme Court's 2023 Students for Fair Admissions and Harvard decision, which banned affirmative action in higher education admissions. Investigators say that the school's leadership openly boasted about using class-based disadvantages like family income, parental education, and underserved area status as proxies for race. The DOJ's review of the 2019 to 2025 admissions data found significant disparities in MCAT scores and acceptance rates by race, with Black and Hispanic applicants admitted at up to 6 times the rate of white and Asian peers, despite lower academic average metrics. This is, okay, I have a few things to say on this. This is, it's a shame because the more these universities do this, the more they hurt underserved and the more they hurt non-white applicants. And I mean, it's actually insulting to individuals who are not white to think that they have to go through such gymnastics and flips to try to help, negate certain academic scores or academic milestones. You know, I'm a white woman. I'm the first person in my family to graduate college. If they're looking at parental education, my parents didn't graduate college. They didn't. They were blue collar workers too. This was, I mean, you know, if somebody has parents who didn't go to college, that doesn't mean they're of one race. You know, this is the issue when somebody tries to stereotype a race or stereotype you could actually get yourself into into more, shall we say, discriminatory water. And so what the medical schools, there's a few things the medical schools need to do, but what the DOJ wants to do is to ensure that because of our civil rights laws, because of our Constitution, we are not supposed to be actively discriminating, picking one person, race, gender over another. If students learn that, okay, I have to say I'm poor, I have to say I'm disadvantaged, I have to say I'm this to get in, now you are hurting the actual disadvantaged student population. I mean, if that's and I see medical students talking about that. They say, look, you need to say you're related to somebody Hispanic, you have Hispanic in the family, or you need to say you have, you're of poor means, or you need to say you had to come to this country and you had to have a story and you had to, and you know, it's, I think, you know, showing the depth of your character and what you had to overcome to become a physician is very, very valuable, you know, for the admissions process. But I think people are making the stuff up. I had one student say, look, you know, I don't have a lot of money. I'm going to have to do student loans. I'm trying to go to medical school. I don't have much of a CV because I had to work through school. You know, what do I do to make it look like I have a story? You know, I was raped, I was this, I was, and it's like, I mean, yeah, you could talk about your rape, you know, to get into medical, but is that what medical school admissions are about right now? Okay, well, I've interviewed students for medical school from a variety of medical schools and for years. And what I look for in a medical student, what I want a medical student to have is integrity and ethics. You can't just tell me, oh, I'm ethical. I want to make sure that person is not going to steal a patient's narcotics or cheat off of another classmate or take advantage when it's call, and dump on another student. So that's one of the first things I look at. Number two is I look to see if they have the grit to make it through a very strenuous process. Because, man, there is not a day that goes by where there's not a medical student who says, I need to quit. And you don't want to accept students who are going to quit. You also, well, and I'm not saying we don't want people who have mental illness. I mean, obviously there's counselors and things like that, but if you aren't going into medical school to marry a doctor. I mean, you're going there because you want to save lives. I also want to ensure that nobody's going to get sick at the sight of blood. I can't tell you how many younger individuals say, yeah, I can't have a period. Give me medicines to stop my period. And I go, why? Are you in pain? They go, well, I can't look at blood. And I go, well, then how are you going to take care of your kids later? Because they're going to get bloody noses. You're going to have to figure out how to, look at that eventually. So I want to make sure that they have that stamina. And then, can they academically withstand all that pressure and also pass the boards? I had to take boards when I would be post-call with no sleep. And I had to know that information front and back. This is something that is very hard to discern in an interview or in a personal statement. But right now, the medical schools are like, well, look, we don't want to be accused of having an all-white class or all-Asian class. We want to look diversified. And trust me, there are millions of students out there of all races, all creed, gender, right, who have the grit and the abilities to become a doctor. But you're looking for the wrong things. I remember there was one student, who had an amazing story where the family had to come over across boats, fleeing a very fascist regime. He was a young child. He gets here. He gets on that boat. He's able to come to America, and a fantastic story. Goes to the same medical school that I went to, or goes through the same residency that I went through. And where is he now? He's in jail because he sedated patients and raped them while they were sedated. Having that story is, yes, it might get you through the medical admissions process, but I'm like, why didn't the medical school do a better job, and then the residency, of figuring out that this person was a predator? This is some frightening stuff. So, we want, yes, strong GPA, strong MCATs, but that doesn't make a good medical student. What makes a good medical student is somebody who is not going to quit, somebody who's going to be ethical, somebody who really cares about the patients, somebody who is going to try and also ask for help. You have a student that says, we had one student who decided to do a central line, or he was doing a swan. The sound got trapped, I guess, got sucked up in the body, and didn't tell anybody. Patient died. I mean, we need that. I don't care what race, creed, gender you are. If a medical school is just trying to look at what your income was, or who your parents are, they're really limiting, and they're not looking at the potential of what other students may offer. It's not just about the GPA and the MCAT scores. But I got to tell you, if you don't have a strong GPA and you don't have a strong MCAT, you're going to struggle with the boards. So we want to also make sure that you succeed. I can't tell you how many times I saw students where they got accepted, but they struggled with the boards and they couldn't become a doctor. Well, then some of them got suicidal. We have got to be colorblind, gender blind, race blind, and we have to, look at individuals as what they need to be and what they need to do. And anybody can do that job, of any race, nationality, etc. But you got to ask the right questions. You got to interview them properly. And you can't take this, let's just take a look at, if your parents went to college. My parents' education did not reflect on what I could do medically. It's you got to come up with things that are much more practical. 1-877 Doc Dolly.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
We're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. 1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Dahlia or X, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So if it isn't bad enough already for somebody to go through a divorce or be widowed, now there's another study saying that those who are divorced or widowed have a higher risk of death. According to the Journal of BMJ Public Health, there's a study saying divorcees and the widowed may face a higher risk of death than those who are still a part of a couple. This is being reported by Fox News. Researchers in Norway analyzed long-term national health data to weigh mortality risk among those who were divorced and in situations where they live with a partner or became widowed. And they looked at 20,000 people, 3 groups of 20,000 people each from 1984 to 2019 who were married or living with a partner at the time. During the next wave of the study, these individuals were categorized into 3 groups: still married or cohabitating, divorced or moved out, or those who were widowed. Death records were then checked through January 2020, according to a press release. The researchers used statistical models to gauge whether this relationship loss was associated with death later. They say divorces or breakups were consistently linked with higher mortality across all groups compared to couples who stayed together. And this was even after they accounted for age, gender, and whether they had diabetes or other health or loneliness or other things like that. And they said being widowed was also linked to about a 14% higher mortality risk, though the association was strongest in the earliest period studied. They say during the second study period, the link between breakup and mortality was stronger, with a statistically significant association observed only among women. Then, they say although this research displays an association between living alone and mortality risk, it does not, though, actually define a direct cause. Like why did they have more heart attack? Did they have stroke? What happened? So they just found an association. Well, these people didn't seem to live as long. So the authors commented that these findings highlight the importance of addressing social disconnection of public health and in clinical practice to reduce preventable mortality, which means they want us doctors to recommend that you don't stay single, that you get out there, which is a little tricky. Because I got to tell you, I'm not a good matchmaker, and I'm not really good at dating advice. I give you guys dating advice, but, for my patients, that's a little tricky. especially since I know all their medical conditions. So, that's kind of just makes it a little bit more challenging. You know, where is it all this coming from? What is the common denominator? Well, it's being lonely. If somebody is lonely, they struggle. And this is nothing new. We don't need another BMJ study to tell us this. We know this. Look at what happened with COVID. It was horrible. People were isolated. We saw what happened to kids. And with children, the mental health effects as well as the physical health effects were exponential. We saw it much faster in that age group. And so we know people can't be isolated. They can't be lonely. The problem is I've had a lot of friends, I've had a lot of patients that have gone through a divorce. They don't want to go through that again. You also have a lot of younger individuals who don't want to get married. The younger generations, the Gen Zs, younger millennials, they don't want to get married. We also see higher risk of mental health issues with that age group. And we're also seeing higher risk of diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer. So I do think there is a relationship. I'm not saying people choosing to be single is why we have such an uptick in colorectal cancer in young people. I'm not saying that. But I do really believe that there is an association. But what do we do about it? Okay, dating is so much different now. Relationships are so much different. It used to be, you would meet somebody before you went off to war or you came back from war. Right? They looked good. You looked good. You had something in common. Maybe you grew up in the same city. You went to the same school. You made it work. Did these people really love each other for 50, 60, 70 years? Some did. Some might not have. But people wanted to be with somebody. And when you want to be with somebody, there's a higher chance of that working. We're not seeing that now. The younger generation is like, I don't think I want to be with somebody. Why get divorced? Why get into fights? Why lose money? Why have to share my resources? Why inherit in-laws? And now the younger generation is talking themselves out of it. And for the human population to survive, we need to procreate. And the fact that now not only are we wanting from a societal standpoint to be single, but the fact that being single or being lonely also increases our death risk, we're going to accelerate our extinction. Do I believe the human race will become extinct one day? I do. I don't want it to. Maybe AI will help. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll accelerate it. But when you have a population that really doesn't like people or being around other people and is not embracing the social aspect of who humans are and our animalistic nature to be social. And we want to just be with our tech at home, not outdoors, getting all pasty and overweight. What's that going to do? People, yeah, but then Dahlia, you're safe. Dr. Dahlia, you're safe, and you're not going to get attacked by a bear. You're not going to get attacked by a coyote or a moose. So you're not going to be shot by somebody. You don't live long. Also, you need to learn. You need to get out of your bubble. One thing that is so amazing about having kids or having students, having a spouse, is you might get up and say, you know what, I just want to eat, I just want to potty, I just want to work out, I want to watch a TV show and whatever. But when you have somebody else going, we need to do this, they get you out, they move. They also care about you. They notice if something's wrong. We've seen study after study where married men live longer than unmarried men. And I know married men are like, I don't believe it. That is fake news. Well, I'm sorry if your marriage is that bad. But it's true. Single men don't do as well. As a doctor, I can tell you that. I saw that all the time. You need the nagging. You need that wife on your ass. Keeps you alive. I remember my father saying, but, is that really what I want? Sadly, though, he passed. So, these studies, what are you supposed to do about it? You can't go back and fix the divorce. You can't go back and, get your spouse back, which is why I really don't like studies like this. But it does remind you that you need to keep moving and you need to keep living. And don't be lonely. It doesn't mean you got to get married again. It doesn't mean you have to date, but don't be alone. Go to church, go to temple, do charity work, do volunteer work, go to class, but go to the gym, but be around other people. Isolation is bad. And go to the doctor. All right? Talk to the doctor and let us doctors figure out if, your living situation is the best. I know a lot of doctors don't spend time with you, but for those of you who are medical students and doctors, you might want to talk about their home life. How many hours a day are they watching TV? Do they go out? Do they go to church? Do they do anything social? Do they go bowling? Are they part of a bowling league? What do they do? And if they are married, are both of you just sitting on the couch or going out and doing stuff? Hiking, skiing, fishing? 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive this stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
Back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So let's say you get through life not having a heart attack. Way to go. Let's say you could get through your years without getting cancer. That's fantastic. Well, for those of us that might be able to bypass those landmines, right, and be able to make it through, right, to our senior years, happy and healthy, what could be waiting for us? Dementia. What type of dementia? Well, there's multi-infarct, there's a variety of different neurodegenerative disorders, but Alzheimer's seems to be the most common. And here we are in 2026, hoping that we have all these medications out there, that all these breakthrough drugs. And unfortunately, we're finding out that they're falling short. Now, that's not good. According to BBC News, that there's these breakthrough drugs that can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, unlikely to see much benefit for Alzheimer patients. They said antibodies similar to the body that are supposed to attack the brain, or viruses and bacteria, are now being trained to attack the amyloid protein buildup. So what some of these studies have done, or some of these medications have done, is come up with these breakthrough medications where we can, almost like a vaccine, try to find the as opposed to a pathogen, the intruder, which is like an amyloid protein that shouldn't be there, grab it and remove it. And for years, the approach failed. But trials of two recent drugs called donanemab and lecanemab show that they could slow the pace of cognitive decline. This was huge. And we kind of spoke about this on the show as well. It was approved, I think, lecanemab was approved in 2023. It was an IV infusion, just as donanemab. Leqembi or Kisunla, I guess, are the brand names. Kisunla came out a year later in 2024. It was supposed to target the brain plaques, show progression. Leqembi showed a reduction in cognitive decline. So people were really, really excited about that. The Cochrane collaboration, according to BBC News, rigorously and independently analyzed the medical data. They looked at 17 studies, 20,342 volunteers of drugs that removed amyloid looked at 17 studies of drugs that removed amyloid in the brain, and it included about 20,000 patients. And they concluded that the approach does slow it down. So there's something to it, but not enough to make a meaningful difference to patients. Not to mention there were risks such as brain swelling and bleeding. Also, these medications had to be given every 2 to 4 weeks, which could be very expensive. So amyloid protein is the biggest culprit. Amyloid, tau, beta proteins collect around the brain neurons in those people that suffer from Alzheimer's. So it interrupts the signals and the electrical discharging. What the monoclonal antibodies do is they stick to the protein, and then they attract immune cells going, we got them, come here. So the antibodies then get recognized by the immune cells, and the immune cells decide to attack the protein. Now there's less protein around the neuron. It's a fantastic idea. It's brilliant, actually, to try to remove plaques from the brain. You got to, though, do it early. This would have to be instituted very early, because once plaques start to destroy the disruption and blood flow and other issues and other nutrients in the way the brain operates, then those cells die, or they're harder to regenerate. The problem is with this study, they found even though it helped, they didn't see much improvement in patients. Now, is it because the beta amyloid protein hurt whatever neurons there were that removing it didn't make that much of a difference? I don't know. And so seeing that, there's this, this, especially for a medication such as that, seeing that the results were quote unquote trivial from these 17 clinical trials and the data, looking at 20,000 patients, it's concerning. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have enough disease modifying therapies. Okay, we might not be able to cure you, but we could slow progression. And that's our goal. The way to handle Alzheimer's, it's kind of how we used to handle fires. We weren't able to put out fires years ago because we didn't have trucks and that much water. All we could do is try to minimize the damage and not let the fire go anywhere else, and let the fire kind of burn through and then stop. And so we aren't going to be able to cure you, but what we want to try to do is minimize damage and not let any other parts of the brain that are healthy get hurt. And if we could keep you, cognitive and keep you functioning for as long as possible, till you're 110 or 120, we would have then done what we needed to. I mean, a lot of us will have memory issues. A lot of us will struggle, cognitively, but as long as we could still take care of ourselves, be among others, be able to, do our daily activities, but once you can't take care of yourself, you can die. So it's important to be able to add that longevity. So the verdict of the analysis showing it was in people with mild cognitive impairment or mild dementia, and it found that the effects of these drugs on cognition and dementia severity over 18 months were quote unquote trivial, with improvement in functional ability small at best. Well, this is a huge blow, according to The Guardian, on this new wave of drugs that were supposed to be one of the safer forms and easier to do. I mean, an infusion, it's going in for your infusion and then getting these monoclonal antibodies because we can't put them in pill form. Absolutely, it was supposed to be a huge game changer, and so it's frustrating. Cochrane Review drew on gold standard methods to assess the data. So I mean, this was a pretty, shall we say, valid way to look at things. So what next? Well, I mean, we have still Aricept, which are cholinesterase inhibitors, Namenda, NMDA antagonists, the cholinesterase inhibitors are known to kind of improve communication between the nerve cells. Again, I have never had a person on Aricept go from severe Alzheimer's to normal, and cured, but, to slow down, it's something. Rivastigmine or Exelon is another one. There's a variety of medications out there. They're trying. But the one concern that I have is if you have a trial like this saying, look, the work you put into it, these drugs, these monoclonal antibodies, and I know they're expensive, provided minimal, if any, benefit. A lot of these pharmaceutical companies are going to be thinking twice about investing in the R&D of more of these drugs. I want there to be a success. I want there to be a golden egg. I want them to be able to make something, one, to help with the patients, but two, to keep, or that the problem we've been having is it's so expensive to come up with these types of medications. And for somebody to take that risk, they need to feel, they need to take a gamble and hope that the drug not only passes clinical trials in terms of safety and efficacy, but that then later the media will run with it, everybody will know about it, and they'll be able to sell it. But if people are, if it's not getting out there, and so pharmaceutical reps will go to doctors and tell them, look, we have these medications, and I know politicians tried to stop that, but if there is a new medication that could work, doctors need to know about it. But it doesn't mean Alzheimer's drugs don't work. It just means that some of these game changers might not be much of a game changer yet. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by Financial Fitness Show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.